All right, so one of the next things that we need to do, and this is probably the most important thing that you're going to do in the process of being able to diet effectively, is writing your meal plan. And, there's some different things to think about when you write your meal plan. And obviously, there's some different things that work for different people, depending on how much variety you need in your diet. If you get really tired of eating some of the same things, or kind of what resources you have available to you. If you have like a little mini kitchenette at your office or whatever it is that you work, kind of what you're able to do. Can impact some of these things, quite a bit. So I'm going to show you, my meal plan and how I put it together. But you might need to do things a little bit differently for you, and I'm going to talk about, a couple, changes that you can make, and then also just kind of keep in mind that, you write a meal plan. As you progress into your diet, you lose weight, you might need to drop calories a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about, some things that you can do to kind of build some of those changes into your meal plan, so that you have a starting point, and it's easy to make some of these adjustments as you go, so you're not necessarily having to kind of go back to the drawing board and just start all over all the time. Personally, I write this plan for the week, and that's what I eat all week long. And really, I have a few favorite things that I typically stick to. My breakfast in the morning generally doesn't change. I have a snack in the afternoon that generally doesn't change. It's quick, it's easy, it works for me. And then my two main meals of the day after breakfast is usually a portion of beef and then a portion of usually chicken. Occasionally it's fish, but a lot of times it's chicken. And then at some point it's really just a matter of swapping out different vegetables or a different portion size of starch, whether it's sweet potato or rice or what have you, to be able to make those adjustments, for calorie needs as things change, but also just to keep a little bit of variety in the diet, so that you're not getting tired of stuff all the time. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll get into, as you can see, it's I'm not going to say it's the best, but it is one of the better calorie tracking sites or software, whatever word you want to use. It's one of the better ones out there. Another good one is Chronometer. So either one of these two are highly recommendable. A lot of people I know use MyFitnessPal. That one, it's better than nothing, but it's not the best. Like one thing, just an example, I'm going to come down here to the potatoes or diced potatoes. Better example I've seen specifically is with rice, where, it'll show you accurately what the calories are, but then all the macronutrients in there are blank. So it's kind of hard to know exactly where your calories are going. And then, if you have certain macro targets you're looking for, it doesn't necessarily provide that information. And then also, I don't have any specific examples of this, things that I've encountered. I actually haven't used MyFitnessPal that much. But, from what I understand, there's a lot of user-created entries and things that go in there, and they tend to not be very accurate from what I have heard. Basically, you can kind of liken MyFitnessPal to being the Wikipedia of calorie tracking software. It's certainly not a vetted and verified source of information. So it's not what I would recommend that you go with. Chronometer is free. I pay for the pro features of MyNet Diary, though I do believe they have a free version as well. And we'll talk about some of the things that MyNet Diary tracks for me, just in terms of micronutrients, and why that matters to me. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started with breakfast. First two things right here, I've got Faye, that's just Greek yogurt. I use the zero fat stuff, and then just, I'm going to come down here and type this in. So let's just say you type Greek yogurt. You're going to specify, you can search by brand, or you can just put in Greek yogurt, and it will have these generic values in here for you. So there's low fat, there's the full fat, there's the stuff that has the vanilla in it. A lot of times I think that's sweetened, or there's just the plain non-fat, which again is the same, which is what I use. So I'm going to click that, and then this particular one isn't a very good example because in terms of serving size, I don't weigh it by the gram. I usually just measure out a cup. You can do it by ounces again, but that's weight. But then, a container, well, I don't know what size container they're talking about. So that one doesn't do any good for me. But here I can go by this one. Just click back to again, this is what I use. 0% fat, by the cup. And then it also offers, these other units for this one. So I do 1 cup. That's 120 calories. And then it's going to take me back to where I had. So just pay attention to the units on these things, because you want to make sure that you're counting these accurately and getting it right. So first thing out of bed in the morning, I make a shake out of the yogurt and 8 ounces of orange juice, something I got from Stan Efferding, pretty tasty. These next two things, this one right here, the Intra Drink, that is a custom food that I programmed myself, just based on a little shake that I mix up during my workout, something I sip on. It's 25 grams of carbohydrates and then 8 grams of protein that are in it. And then I'm currently adding another 25 grams of carbohydrates to that for 50 grams total. So that's something I just sip on during my workout. As I need to drop calories, this other 25 grams of carbs that I'm using, that's probably going to be one of the first things to go. So that's kind of one of those things I just have built into the plan that makes it easy for me to adjust my calories down as I go. Okay. So right here, this is my post-workout meal. My breakfast, as I call it, is my first actual meal of the day. So I have 5 eggs, 1.5 cup of frozen diced potatoes. The peppers, I actually roast those off. I slice them up, roast them off, a whole cookie sheet at a time, and I sprinkle them in a couple of things. You'll see these in a couple places on my meal plan. I estimate I'm using about a half a pepper each time. I use a half a cup of crumbled turkey sausage, and then I use 1 tablespoon of olive oil to saute all these items here together. This is another thing right here, the olive oil, that is probably going to be, one of, not necessarily the first things, but the first few things that might get cut as I have to scale calories down. It's just one simple thing that I can take out, and that's 120 calories that I can eliminate. And then at that point, I'll just opt for pan spray, which, pan spray in a nonstick pan, you're getting a really pretty insignificant amount of fat. Not to say that there's not a couple calories in there, but it's as long as you're not going crazy with it, it's not really necessary to count most of the time, in practical terms. So this is, the start of my day right there. I am using 5 eggs currently because I just started dieting, so my calories are a little higher than what they would be, and we'll talk about where my calories are at currently next. But as I need to, as I need to cut some calories, one thing that can work really well is, like, say, instead of 5 eggs, if I wanted to shave 70 calories off, so I could just go down to 4, and that would shave 70 calories because they're 70 calories a piece. Another thing that I could do if I need to shave 70 calories but not sacrifice protein, I can actually go down to 3 eggs, and a half a cup of egg whites has right about 70 grams of, or 70 calories as well. So those are little swaps that I can make in here, and I'll show you what I mean. So half a cup of egg whites, 67 calories right there. I do that, and then I can go right here, three eggs, and it doesn't really change my calorie intake. So that is one swap that I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust this back really quick, because this is the meal plan that I'm going to be eating for the week. All right, so before I go through the rest of this here, My Net Diary will give you, what they think you should be eating calorie-wise for your weight goal. Don't pay any attention to it because it might not be accurate with what you've calculated or where you've progressed to in your diet. So based on the calorie tool that I use to calculate my needs, this is about where I need to be. One thing I'll throw out there is this is what I eat on a training day. On non-training days, I do protein-sparing modified fasting, which brings my calories down on those days pretty significantly. So I'm able to keep my calories a little bit higher on training days doing that. But this is just, kind of part of the plan. And, obviously over the coming weeks, next couple of months, I'll have to, bring this number down a little bit. So we'll get back to lunch. So one thing I'm a big believer in is making sure to eat some lean beef, pretty much every day if I can. So I have, some trimmed New York strip, and then, another thing that's important to show you here. So I can type in New York strip, and it'll give me different options as far as, so here it is, based on, just different levels of trimming. There's grass-fed, some couple different brands here that may or may not be applicable to you. If you search in here a little bit more, just pay attention to the units, because like right here, it's telling you a serving of New York strip. What size is that serving? You need to make sure you know that. If you're just putting in a generic value, but your serving size isn't the same as theirs, that can throw your numbers off. And then also, you can specify with some of these, like this says it's raw. If you look in here, you can find values for cooked weight as well, and that can make a pretty sizable difference. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. You don't want to be counting the wrong thing. I like sweet potatoes in my diet, so I do a cup of those with dinner. Carrots, good source of vitamin A. So I always make sure that I try to get carrots. There's a couple things I took away from Stan Efferding in the vertical diet. Obviously, greens are really good for you, so I got spinach in there. I skipped lunch, so let's go back to that really quick. Again, as you'll see, chicken breasts cooked. This is a convenience product that I use here. When you go to Costco, if you look around, I've noticed they don't always have it, but a lot of times they do. They've got the they pull the breast meat off of the rotisserie chickens, and they have those in cryovac bags, a couple pounds, or maybe it's a pound and a half. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but they have those in bags, so saves you some cooking time. So, this is a quick, easy meal for me. I always love Asian noodles, really any kind of Asian noodle at all. And this is a Taiwanese style ramen that I like. So I can just shred this up real quick and throw it into my noodles as they finish cooking. I've got my roasted peppers. I like to sprinkle those in. I can throw some broccoli. And again, I've got room for it in my diets at the current time. So I do have a glass of orange juice with lunch. This probably won't last all that long. As a general rule, when you're dieting, you probably don't want to drink very many of your calories. But I've got room for it currently. Hunger's not an issue. I'm not at the point where I really need to start bulking these two meals up with a lot of vegetables to be able to stay full. So I get to treat myself with a glass of orange juice, which is nice. And then we've already talked dinner. So coming down here to snacks, I've got two snacks in here actually. So these three items right here, the apple, the orange, and the outright bar, this is something I have in the afternoon. I like the fruit for one. Fruit's just good for you. It's got a lot of nutrients in it, but it's also fibrous and it helps me stay full. And then, the outright bars I like because they do have, a good amount of some protein in there, but then also they're just really, really tasty. It's almost like having a candy bar, but it's actually good for you. So that is a plus. And then after I get home from work, I usually want something a little bit to kind of hold me over at night. So I have a cup of low-fat cottage cheese and some blueberries. Again, blueberries just super nutritious for you. Berries in general are. So I try to get a serving of those each day. And that pretty much sums up my eating for the day. Now, just to come down here, everybody wants to talk about macros. It will equate this by percentages. I don't pay very much attention at all to the percentages. That's just not how I formulate my diet and a meal plan. I look at what my hard targets are. So based on my weight, in terms of my target fat, it's around 60 grams a day for me minimum. Obviously I can go more than that. It tends to make food taste a little bit better when there's a little bit more fat in there. I've got room for it. So, I'm at around 100 grams right now, which is totally fine. And then one of the other big ones is, protein. I need to aim for about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So for me right now, that's only 175 grams. So obviously I'm considerably over that, which is fine. I'm not necessarily getting any benefit out of eating more than that. But again, it goes back to being able to build my diet so that it's easy to adjust in the future. If I was just scraping by at 180 grams, right now, with how I had it set up, for one thing, these fat and carbohydrate numbers would probably be higher than what they are. But then I would also have to go back and change quite a few things to be able to keep the protein up as my calories come down. With the way I have it set currently, I can very easily just adjust some of these portion sizes. I can drop, make this a smaller portion of protein here, this is only 33 grams of protein. That's about what you want in a given meal. I wouldn't want to go less than there. But there are, places I could go and adjust, some of these protein, eventually the turkey sausage might just get cut. There's just little things that I can do to be able to, when I need to shave calories, I've got a little bit of extra protein here in the bank that, I can adjust those portion sizes down without having to totally eliminate foods. It's set up right now. I like where it's at just in terms of some flexibility that I have to be able to progress with. And then another thing just to pay attention to, keep in mind for trying to optimize your diet. There's people out there that will tell you that nutrient timing doesn't matter. I'm not going to say that it's the biggest deal in the world, but it does matter. So like I said, I drink this shake first thing out of bed in the morning. I immediately go work out after that because that's just the time of the day that fits into my schedule. And, this is what I have in my post-workout meal. So I've got, 25 grams of protein and then another, what is that? 44 grams of protein after my workout. So I've got protein and then more protein with my workout sandwiched right in the middle of that. That's generally how you want to set that up, which working out first thing in the morning can make that a little bit trickier. A lot of people work out more in kind of that afternoon before dinner. That's probably a little bit more ideal. That just doesn't work for me. So just keep things like that in mind and ultimately do the best that you can with it. And then just kind of keep in mind the simpler you can make this stuff, the better. Like, you'll notice with this meal and with this meal, I don't have any oil that I've listed. That's because I'm going to just try to use just a spritz of pan spray and not count it. The more individual ingredients you're throwing into things, the more that you have to account for, which really just makes this whole thing a little bit more of a headache for you. And then kind of last thing I'm going to talk about is just getting down over here into micronutrients. Fiber is very, very important. This number right now for me isn't exactly ideal. I'd like that to be a little bit higher. But 30 grams is okay. It's certainly not anything where I feel like I need to completely tear this apart and go back to the drawing board. But that number could be a little better. But like I said, as I move forward and calories come down, I'll have to kind of bulk my diet up with a little bit more vegetables, just to kind of help with hunger. Once we kind of get deeper into this, that number will go up with that. So I'm not too stressed about it right now. But obviously, vitamin A, I'm getting a ton of that, though a lot of it is from like the carrots and sweet potato. So that's really it's provitamin A, also known as beta carotene. It's not actually fully bioactive vitamin A like you would get from liver. So, this 1,200% might seem a little bit excessive given where I'm getting it from. I'm not worried about vitamin A overload. Vitamin C, I see all kinds of people that feel like they got to take a whole bunch of vitamin C, without really even trying. Just between the peppers and some orange juice, I'm getting a ton of vitamin C, so I don't need to supplement that. Vitamin D, as you can see right here, I am getting absolutely none from my diet, which might be a reason to freak out for some people. I'm not worried about it because I do supplement this 10,000 IUs a day. But then also something to keep in mind is really when you get into vitamin D from whole food sources, there really aren't a whole lot of good whole food sources of vitamin D. So if you're trying to get vitamin D exclusively from your diet, you're probably going to be disappointed. So this is one that you definitely need to supplement. Vitamin B12, between the beef especially, that's one of the reasons I eat beef, is it's a great source of vitamin B12. But then, just some of the other stuff I have in here. I'm getting plenty of vitamin B12, so that's good. Calcium is good. Magnesium, I'm a little bit low. This is another one that you really need to supplement, which I do, because realistically, just due to worldwide soil completion, or soil depletion rather, magnesium's a tough one to be able to get from your diet, especially if you are, weight training and doing things like that. You're typically going to have a need for a little bit more of it. So I don't worry about hitting this one from my diet. So that's really not a problem. So this is how I set up a meal plan. As things progress with my diet, I'll do this again and show a little bit more. But if you have questions, feel free to ask. And then ultimately, the biggest thing is you're just going to have to get in here and play around with it. But plug in foods that you like. You might run into things where you see, yeah, I really want to have a cheeseburger. Well, if you're using 80-20 beef, you're probably not going to be able to do that. But you can use a lean beef, and you can use a smaller hamburger bun. You can use low-fat cheese. You can use like Walton Farms 0-calorie ketchup. Skip the mayonnaise, things like that. You can make these things fit. You'll just have to kind of play around with it. Yeah, it seems like it's a good bit of work. It can seem that way in the beginning, but I promise you, once you do this a few times, you'll get the hang of it. The nice thing about it is you can sit there on your iPad and you can do this while you're watching Netflix. So it really doesn't have to actually take time, out of your schedule to do this. A lot of times I'll get home from work on a Saturday night and I start thinking about, how I'm going to adjust my meal plan for the week. I might be up watching a movie or something, and I'll just sit and, kind of play around with this a little bit, make some adjustments, and then that way I know what I need to buy at the grocery store when I go over the weekend. So, get in there, do the work, play around with it, and, ultimately, your first couple of meal plans probably aren't going to be your best ones. Part of this whole process is you have to kind of learn the consequences of the foods that you choose. Some foods are more worth eating than some others might be. Some things are going to do better with helping you stay full. You have to learn all that as you go. There's no perfect way to do this without any experience. Don't be daunted by it. Just get in, get started. You can always improve things as you go. So just focus on doing that, and things will go pretty well for you. You just got to give it a little bit of time.